Debbie Gibson.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. It's here. My favorite thing about that intro was that all those accomplishments, but it was the taking out the trash and the heels that got the biggest reaction. Hi, Rob.
Unbelievable. There are legends, and there's Debbie Gibson.
Aww.
The word legend, Debbie, the word gets kicked around a lot, but you changed the world. The first teenage girl to sing, write, and produce her own #1 hit, which is now what pop music is. You listen to the radio, you listen to pop music in 2025, you're listening to all the daughters of Debbie. You continue to inspire
I love
everybody.
that. Thank you so much. Oh my God, I love that, Daughters of Debbie. Sounds like a secret club.
But like so much of the
you.
book is you had to fight to prove that as a teenage girl, you could write songs, sing them directly to other girls your age, communicate directly without those male middlemen. And now that's how pop music works. You had to fight to prove that it could be done at all.
Yes, I mean, it really was like if a label was looking to sign a young girl, it was just kind of a knee-jerk reaction of, okay, so where are all the men who are going to tell this girl what to sing, how to dress, right? And I just was perplexed by that, as was my mom. And so we just tried to like make everyone realize that made no sense, essentially, right? And you know, so many of you were there at that time, and you are who I was speaking to. Caleb, you were not born yet. But you're here now as a young person, but I still feel like, again, right, we talk about agelessness so much. We speak to each other, right? Like we understand each other. But I just always wanted that opportunity to have the most direct line of communication with my audience. And I didn't even know I had an audience yet, you know, but I felt like they were out there, and I felt like the only way to make friends is to be yourself, right? Like that was, I guess, my analogy.
Well, and you were the real thing. And that's why you caught on, and that's why you're still doing what you do, because people can always tell it's coming straight from the heart, and you've always been completely authentic in everything you do.
Thank you. I was watching that, I was watching that montage, though, and I was having a moment. I have a lot of moments lately. And I was thinking to myself, I just kind of still can't believe that, like, yes, I had music running through me, right? I thought in music, I still do. But I still was this little girl who was just trying to do this thing. And so I look at myself and I go, wow, I can't believe all the things I tackled. But I tackled them, like some of them came more naturally than others. I talk about that a lot in the book, and it always blows my mind that there are so many vocalists out there, so many artists. You never hear them talk about their voice or vocalizing or whatever. It comes so naturally, right? And I found it was fascinating to find what I was writing about, because I was like, wow, I have a lot to say on the subject of how weirdly difficult it was for me to sing consistently and at a certain level and hit certain notes my whole career, right? And it still is. I have to be in a certain zone. Like I can break out into song a little bit, but to do it the way I like to do it. So I just, again, it's the message in my music and my whole career, and it was then and it still is now, is very simple. If I can do it, you can do it. If I can do whatever it is I've been wanting to do and have done, you can do the same, and that's at any point in your life. You can start something new. Thank you. And that's what I was feeling when I was watching that career retrospective.
I love that. Well, and it's such an inspiring story because, of course, you just made the amazing The Body Remembers, which I absolutely love. One of the best concept albums ever about adult life and adult romance.
Oh, thank you.
And it really resonates with people for the same reason the book does, because you're telling your truth in such an authentic way.
Thank you. For those of you, I think a lot of, there's a lot of my diehards, my Deb heads and my Diamond Deb heads here, right? And maybe some people who just kind of are rediscovering and circling back because of the book moment, but Rob wrote that first great kickoff article to the Body Remembers album era. And I was so moved by how much you received that album in the way that I could have only dreamt of, and how you all received it. Because it definitely was very visceral in the lyrics. You know, I've become kind of a lyric snob now. Like, I really had to tell my truth in a certain way, and I really didn't stop till it felt really, really right. And so, thank you for that. I love, and we're on single 6, you guys, from that album. It's like, buy land or a house or just make another album. Like the equivalent of making 6 music videos is like a house, right? And I would so much rather have these music videos live on in the world. It's true. It's true.
This book is so inspiring. It's the whole story from the beginning. Like so many great epic stories, yours begins in Long Island.
Yes. Long Island in the house tonight. Who is from Long Island tonight? Yes. Amazing. Yeah, and you know, and Elisa DeStefano is here, and she worked with my mom back when we first, well, I guess it was like in the 90s, right, Elisa? Where are you? Are you here? Is she here still? Yes. 98, 99. Yes. And you are Long Island personified, and you loved my mom so much. Love her still. We just had a little cry over her in the dressing room doing an interview. But we were talking about how amazing Long Island has always been for the arts. You know, like my parents could not afford to send us to summer camp or on teen tours, but there was the Town of Hempstead Repertory Theater, which was like, you know, my parents were like, great, we're dropping you off and you're doing improv and you're, you know, whatever, all the things, rehearsing the Elves and the Shoemaker, and then we performed on a traveling showmobile, and that, you know, and it was just the fabric of my entire childhood was the Long Island arts scene.
Well, and not to change the subject from the art scene of Long Island, but you evoke the authentic teenage high school Long Island experience so beautifully. One of my favorite moments is you're describing a young moment of romance at the United Skates of America.
Yes, yes.
Massapequa?
Yes, Massapequa. Yes, my like first real date, first kiss. I think I say it's like bubble yum, great bubble yum. That's what I remember. And Foreigners, I Want to Know What Love Is, playing on my sister's stereo while I was getting ready. And I was so nervous. I was such a late bloomer. Like, I don't know. I'm still nervous even just talking about romance. And one of the things, it's funny, by the way, every day I wake up and I go, I didn't put that in the book. Like somehow I wrote over 90,000 words, and there's going to be a sequel to the book called I Didn't Put That in the Book. Oh, wait, where was I going with that? Wait, there was something. Oh, yeah. I used to say to my mom, by the way, I'm so overtired and so overjoyed, and you're going to get such kind of weird, wacky stream of consciousness stuff, even more than usual. Like, it's just, you know. But I used to say to my mom, Mom, I'm going to play you a song, but you're not allowed to ask me who it's about or what it's about. Because I was basically opening up my diary, and like, I didn't want to share everything, but I wanted to share it through music, but I wanted like a layer of protection where I didn't get interrogated about the boy I was writing about.
All names have been changed to or not.
Exactly.
But it evokes the way that you really lived out. You were every quintessential small-town America pop girl who just happened to also be a genius songwriter. And you crossed the line and wrote songs about that real life in a way that connected with real people.
Thank you for that. Like, I love that. I was kind of thinking about that yesterday because when I was on The Tonight Show and I was like, I'm always this cross between, it's what you just said. I feel like I'm the liaison between being the showbiz girl, but always being grounded and like in my community and in real life. Like, not that showbiz can't be real life or showbiz people don't live real lives, but you know what I mean. You know, it's like I'm always gonna that fangirl is always naturally alive in me, and I'm always going to allow for that, and I'm not going to ever try to be the coolest person in the room. I feel like there's a time and a place for the ownership of my craft, and on stage, you're all looking to me to kind of be that leader, but I think I'm a better leader because I'm a communer, and because
Absolutely.
I do, and yes, in high school, I purposely stayed in school and I talk about it, and I talk about, there was definite bullying going on because nobody likes a kind of like, I was standing out. I, of course, was trying to make my music stand out in the world, but nobody wants to stand out in high school. I don't think. I didn't want to really. So, I had to have a backbone that I was like, I still don't know if I really have that backbone or not, but I had to flex and use it. And it kept me in a constant state of fight or flight in high school, which eventually wore me down.
Yeah, but it's partly why your music was connecting with real kids, because they could tell that you were the real deal. And something that never changes in pop music, then or now, nobody has a BS detector like teenage girls. They can smell a phony a million miles away, and they could tell right away you were the real thing.
Thank you.
And when you came out in the late 80s, it was a time when there were a lot of manufactured teen idols who were styled to look like models. They were trying to look like they were worldly models, like, they were styled, they were super dressed, everything. You were on your album cover with your knees painted. With your
Yes,
ripped dreams,
exactly.
ripped jeans, but also your ripped dreams, like in the songs. But they could tell that you were one of them.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I was definitely like, I was shopping at the mall and the little boutiques in town still, and, like this whole trip I've been styling myself. Like I kind of always really enjoyed styling myself and being in the moment with it. And I do think that relatability is something, I enjoy knowing that I have that. I enjoy knowing that I'm not always perfectly put together. I'm always a little rough around the edges. But I do think that that's like, I always idolized Tina Turner. And I always loved that she always felt, yes. Didn't she always just feel like, like she just was like, I care, but I don't care. I'm here for the music. I'm going to show my legs. I'm going to, whatever. My hair is a little like, tonight my hair is a little like, I kind of just rocked it out, and it's a fun way to live, like to not, I don't think I'd want to be that overly styled girl. Like, could you imagine having to look perfect on a red carpet all the time? I wouldn't want it. I couldn't do it anyway, but I wouldn't want it, even if I could.
But you were always for real, and you took that to the absolute top of the charts. It's really wild to remember the moment when you went from being a kid, basically, to being all over MTV, all over the radio, and you capture that so beautifully in the book. So many of my favorite scenes of the book are when you're blowing up, going super famous from being just an ordinary kid and still being an ordinary kid.
Thank you. I really have been thinking about this a lot lately with the book having come out, and thinking about this time where I hadn't taken my posters of my idols off my walls when I started getting played on the radio, which is so wild, right? Like, I was winning those tickets to Wham. Karen, my sister Karen's here, yep. Karen and I took the Wham, where's Karen? Hi, Karen. We took the Wham track to Philly, baby, right? It was so much fun. Yeah, and Chaka Khan opened, which was nuts. And then literally like 2 years later, my tickets were being given away on the radio. Like, who gets to do that? It was so crazy.
So many great moments in the book that you couldn't make them up, right? If you made a movie about an 80s pop star, one of my favorite scenes in the book, and I never knew this happened, is you're on stage with Elton John and Billy Joel singing Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds.
Yes.
Unbelievable. I had to go right to YouTube to find that. As soon as I read that in the book, I said, you've got to be kidding me. What a moment.
If you found it on YouTube, I need to see it because I haven't seen it.
Just audio. It's
okay,
just audio.
Yeah, that's probably like a bad cassette, right? Like a bootleg cassette on YouTube, which I love. But like, I wish that existed somewhere. But yeah, I just was going to watch the concert, and Billy and Elton had rehearsed this song, and each had their keyboards, and I went backstage, and Elton was always like such a chart connoisseur, and he was always up on, and he still is, like he loves modern music and he loves younger artists, so he was like, oh, you're number 17 on the charts, whatever. He like knew the chart position, and he was like, sorry, I'm gonna do a really bad British accent right now. I haven't done Cabaret in a while, so it's not gonna be good, but he was like, Debbie, would you like to come up with Billy and I, doing Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds? I don't have a third keyboard, but if you'd like to share mine with me, that would be, fantastic. And I was like, what is happening? Like, sure. And I was just programmed to say yes. And again, I was like shaking, but I was like, of course. What key are we doing it in? And got up there, and I just kept like looking at my hands on the keys and Elton's hands on the keys, going like, our hands are on the same keyboard, and I'm looking to my right, and there's Billy, and they're my two piano idols, because I talk about this in the book, but I always loved those piano men. I also loved Carole King, but I like really dug into Billy and Elton in my childhood, and then I loved like Broadway women vocally, so I kind of put it all together, I guess, in a way. So yeah, that still goes down in history as being one of my all-time favorite career moments and life moments.
And I love that the Elton John song you're singing is this really surreal, psychedelic, druggy Beatles song.
Yeah, exactly. Which I didn't know at the time. And I basically just did sang on the choruses, but played by ear. And Elton was like, wow, I didn't, afterwards, he said, I didn't know you had an ear like that and you could improvise like that. And I was like, oh my God.
Amazing.
Crazy.
But you were everywhere. You were part of every single pop story. You met all the legends. They all loved you. They could tell that you were one of them, just as the fangirls could tell that you were one of them. You were totally at home in both worlds.
Thank you. I mean, it was, I think they were all a little like, I was kind of like from Mars at the time, right? But I always see this like the rockers, like when I did the San Remo Festival with Def Leppard, there was always a respect amongst rockers. And even now with Fred Coury and Ashba on the legendary record and in the video. But I think it's like all the same mentality, and maybe because everybody worked their way up in clubs. And I think we were all and are still all about the music. It's just kind of that simple.
Yes. That you went from the super early days to being that in the middle of everything. I love the story when you're at the American Music Awards, Dick Clark and all these legends, and you have one of the funny lines in the book is when you're talking about, I was never the coolest kid in high school, but suddenly I had to hang out with Axl Rose, and
oh, yeah.
had to hang out with Dick Clark, had to hang out with all the stars.
I mean, I was like, I was never comfortable even at high school parties. So then to be at like an American Music Awards party as a kid who didn't feel cool at parties was, I just really tried my best to be myself, as silly as that sounds. A lot of that started though with how I dressed. Like I was always, again, I was comfortable. I was in my own vibe as much as possible, which helped me relax and be comfortable around all these people. But to see, like Karen, you remember, because you were at that American Music Awards party, and I see those pictures, and it's like our family from Merrick, Long Island, with, it was like DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, and Olivia Newton-John and Rod Stewart and all these people, and Whitney Houston at all the award shows. Like I was just always like in awe of her, but then I was really in awe of the fact that A, she knew me, and B, she was so respectful and warm to me. Because listen, I have a very good BS meter, and I have always read people, and when you're like kind of forced very young to have this unusual amount of self-awareness, you start to really know who's who and what's what, and you start going, oh, well, technically that person was being nice, but that was as nice as they had to be like, see, I'm being nice. Or nice for a showbiz person who's top of the charts, or nice for... And when someone's really nice and warm, and you're like, wow, you could really strip away all the showbiz accolades, and that's just a nice person. I mean, I always really recognized that, and I found that when I met Whitney. And she could have been the biggest diva, like, because people almost would have enjoyed that if she was, you know what I mean? Like, she could get away with that, but she didn't.
People could tell you were for real. I'm sure that was coming from you, and she could tell that.
Aw, thank you.
You mentioned that you have a video about your early days.
I do. We have a few little montages, because, you know, we all love a good montage around here. And Nick Spanos is here, who's done all this beautiful photography for me and directed all these music videos. And he put this together. So if you want a little glimpse of what my world was like at 16 and 17, this maybe goes into 18 a little bit, take a look. Oh my gosh, so crazy. Where's my Aunt Linda and Uncle Carl? Because they're here tonight. Where are you guys? There you are. Isn't it wild seeing that footage of the living room? Like, right? Because we don't get to see that a lot, because again, we were not documenting everything, but we didn't have Aunt Linda and Uncle Carl had the first VCR in the whole of Long Island, I think. Which is great, because when I was on the Joe Franklin show in the middle of the night, they were able to tape it. Yes. Yes, for the Joe Franklin show. But seeing that living room really takes me back to what started that whole, I mean, just to like be holding the family captive in the living room with the song it was just my favorite thing.
I love that. You're with Pavarotti and Placido Domingo.
You know.
I love that they found you in the footage somewhere.
I mean, I love that so much. Yeah. I can't tell you why, but I went back there yesterday to the Metropolitan Opera. It'll be revealed as to why. And I'm pretty sure that I actually found my costume for Bohème in the costume room. They've been around for that long. Yes, they've been Febrezed to death, but they've been around. But it was so incredible. I mean, I really feel like my love of orchestrations came from that. It really dawned on me when I was there yesterday and I was hearing that sound, because I think in string arrangements, and like that was my intro to that. I was just surrounded by that all the time.
That makes sense. And something else I learned from the book was how many movies you were an extra in.
Oh my God, which we now respectfully call background actors, but
Apologies.
Back then we were
Apologies.
No, but back then, by the way, when you write a book, you go, I want to be politically correct and respectful, but I want to represent what was happening at that time. So it would be like, you know, the singing waiters, now called servers, you know, or whatever the thing is, because back then that was simply what it was called. So we were called extras, but
Day player.
Day player was another great way of putting it. Yes.
But it's wild that you were in the background, in the corner, always, you know, moving.
Yeah, I wanted to be in the middle of it, you know? I wanted to learn, observe. Like, I knew what that professional energy felt like, and I wanted to be a part of it.
And when you became a star, you set off this massive wave. Suddenly, before you came along, there was no music made for teenagers by teenagers. Within a year or two, it was everywhere. You might say you set off a wave of electric youth, but suddenly, like, you had all these peers who were also making that kind of noise. An inspiring thing to see.
It's interesting because it felt like they were all, like, a lot of them were bubbling under, or like just starting, but it was like, it was maybe a domino effect. Like, you know, if, let's say, I don't know when the Jets were signed, right? Or Glenn Medeiros, or like some of the ones that were not Tiffany and me and Kylie, and right? Like Tracy Spencer and I still communicate on social media, and Shanice, and they were all around and like starting, but I think they hadn't broken through, and it was kind of like, you know, radio went, oh my God, this is working, okay, and the labels were like, quick, fast track that act, and so I think the ripple effect really started at that point.
Totally. And it was such a before and after moment when Foolish Beat became a number one hit that you wrote, and suddenly it was a revelation that, no, the girl knew what she was doing here, and she knew how to communicate with other people. She was doing it herself.
Well, you know, it's so interesting because when I watched the Wham documentary, and I didn't realize that Careless Whisper was produced originally by, I think it was by Arif Mardin, And George was like, this is not how I want it to sound. Like, I always felt that way about my ballads. Like, ballads will produce themselves if you let them. How many musician, producer, writer type people do we have here today? Any? Not a one. Okay, so anyway, if you can imagine. No, but if you can imagine, like, you know, when you hear a ballad stripped down, there's such a beauty to it, right? So all you want to do is enhance that. You don't want to overproduce a ballad. So to me, it's the easiest thing to produce a ballad, but it's the easiest thing for someone else to overproduce it, thinking you have to. And I just want to say something about the whole era and the like that you saw the club era. Buddy's here. Where's Buddy? Where's Buddy? Where are you, bud? Hi, Buddy. I mean, wasn't it just, again, I'm taking this moment in and sharing it with all of you to just say, like, Buddy, we were playing those clubs and we were babies. It's so crazy. It's so great. And you had hair. Like, you had sick hair. Like, it was good hair. But it's so amazing. And somebody else is here tonight. Where's Louis? Louis Martinet. Louis produced Play the Field for me on the Out of the Blue album.
Wow.
Louis Martinet, who wrote and produced like all the amazing expose hits, you know. And so when I see those clubs, because it reminded me, like, I used to play the clubs with the girls with expose. We were all out in the middle of the night singing to our tracks. Amazing. I just love the celebration. And there's a couple other special people here, but I'll roll them out as we go on.
Unbelievable. By the time I saw you live in the 80s, how many people saw Debbie live in the 80s?
Did anyone see me in a club? Did anyone see me in a club? Or, yes, clubs? Well, you. Or at colleges. That's what I was going to say, because then came the colleges. I remember there was a college tour. It was all like kind of, it felt like it took a long time, but it all happened within like a year. The clubs, the colleges, amusement parks. Amusement parks, anyone?
By the time I saw you, you were in arenas. First time I saw you was the summer of '88. It was the New Haven Coliseum.
Wow.
And yes, absolutely phenomenal show. And you did Lost in Your Eyes, which you were doing before it was even released or recorded.
Yes.
But we all got to hear a #1 hit first. And I always remember something that blew my mind was you did In the Still of the Night, you had your 50s doo-wop interlude.
Yep.
And you said during the show, that song was recorded right here in New Haven. And I thought, wow, that is somebody who knows her pop history inside out, because that wasn't something everybody knew. That was really kind of mind-blowing that you were just a teenager, but had that level of pop obsession and pop scholarship.
I always had that. I mean, like, I feel like I've told you this before, but one of my favorite autobiographies is Rosemary Clooney, Girl Singer. Yes. And, you know, so I remember thinking, like, because I don't know how I knew, but I always knew that she was 16 and on the road. You know, there are always people who came before all of us. You know, there's a lineage. So I always did have that respect and a little bit of that knowledge, and you know, always took my hat off to the people who did it first, you know. And I always hope that the people out now do that as well.
Well, and you carry that tradition forward. But in terms of writing your own hits, I love how you hold the record as the youngest woman ever to sing, write, produce her own #1 hit. And you're also in the #2 position.
I know, yes.
You're your own runner-up.
I'm my own runner-up, which is nuts, again.
Lost in Your Eyes became an even bigger hit a few months later.
Thank you.
Classic.
Wild.
Classic.
Thank you.
Some of my favorite scenes in the book come during a very transitional time when you move on to Broadway, which is a whole other kind of musical world. And it's amazing because the way you evoke those scenes in the book where you're going way outside your comfort zone into a new world.
Yes, and I love that you call them scenes. And I don't know if that's like common in talking about books or we say chapters, but I did try. I hope. How many of you are like a decent amount of the way through the book already? Like, I feel like I saw so many people posting today. I'm like, how are they doing this. You guys are superhuman. You took the speed, what is it, Evelyn? What is it, that speed reading course? Evelyn Wood speed reading course. Or just listening all day long. Yes, or like somebody was doing a jog. I'm like, how many miles are you jogging? You're on chapter 7. But I love that you're saying scenes. Yeah, so to this day, just standing, like I can envision right now when I did Les Mis, that feeling of standing in the middle of the stage when like everything and everyone was gone, and it's like, holy crap, everyone's expecting me to sing on my own right now. You know, it was like, it was, I mean, I was in character and I wasn't really thinking that, but I was feeling that level of anxiety. So, you know, I'm an adrenaline girl. You know, somebody today said, hey, do you want to do the national anthem? It was this big team. And I was like, no, because because I've done the anthem so many times, and in this era of my life, it's just so freaking nerve-wracking to me. I don't want to put myself through it. I'm like, there are better people for that job, and I'm fine with that. And that's like, so to do theater and to sing, especially those big ballads, was really challenging for me. The poppier musicals were easier, like Grease. And then for me, Sally Bowles was, I mean, Jonathan, where's Jonathan? I think you filmed that bootleg Sally Bowles footage in the in the montage at the beginning, because we were in a relationship at the time. I talk about Jonathan in the book. But when I did Cabaret, I mean, I was wrung out all the time because it was exhausting, but it was also like, that was also my happy place, like vocally and viscerally. It was where I got to really use my rough edges, and you hear how I speak, like I have this naturally kind of husky voice. It's the New York thing. I think, you know, it's funny, I hear interviews and I'm talking like this, right? And it's not just because I'm younger, that's the people pleaser voice, right? So when I started to like drop into myself, then a role like Sally Bowles for me was such a beautiful fit.
The way you describe it in the book, you went into so many different parts of your personality doing theater that were so different from where you were coming from as a pop musician.
Yes, it's true. And of course, I go into talking about Gypsy and Betty Buckley. And Betty and I spent like 3 days on the phone revisiting that time because I wanted to do that moment justice. And I didn't want to betray the sacredness of a theater rehearsal and kind of like tell people's personal business and their process. And she was all for me telling the story, and she actually called herself intense. So I was like, oh, it's a good word. I love her. But she was like, yeah, it could be a little intense. But where she took me to was she was trying to fast forward my life, and Karen, you can relate, like, and you, because you have, you know, one of Karen's kids was on Broadway already, my nephew Nick, right, and Billy Elliot and the tour. Yes, sure, let's clap that out. But I'm sure, like, at some point you related to Mom, right, where you're like, you're not like a stage mother, but like you're a showbiz mom, like, and there are certain things that come with that. And so, like, Betty was trying to get me to fast forward to the part in my life where my mom wasn't managing me anymore, and it sometimes was stressful to have her in the backstage area because she was like, I'm here. You know, she was a little Mama Rose in those moments, right? And as I say in the dedication, she filled the room, and she did. But sometimes I needed to be in my space and my zone. And Betty would be like, Deb, your mom is a stage mother. You just don't know it yet. And I'm trying to help you get to where the character is in the show in the 3 weeks we have to get you there, right? So she didn't articulate all that immediately, but she just started pushing the buttons that she needed to get me there, and she started to do a lot of like psychological analyzation and work. And to think back on it, I'm like, Betty effing Buckley took me under her wing, you know, like, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. Like, that performance to me, I know that I stretched as far as I possibly could in that moment, and that always really excited me.
Just reading that part of the book, I'm like, oh my gosh, talk about getting thrown into the deep end. It's like, yes. Yeah, you're working your way into the theater world by doing Gypsy with Betty Buckley as your
exactly.
Mama Rose.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, that sounds like that sounds like an entire therapy program.
It
in
is.
just a
I
few
mean,
weeks.
it was intense, and it was life altering. It was like it taught me the feeling, and then I studied acting with Howard Fine, and I didn't talk a ton about the acting class. Like I used to be one of the acting students who packed my car up with props. Like half my apartment or my home was in my car, going to the acting class and all of that. And he used to say, like, if it doesn't cost you something, you did not do it right. You know, you have to be shaking. You have to be so vulnerable. Like, I got to those places with Betty that paved the way for me doing what I did in Cabaret. You know, I could remember being like out of body. I remember, Karen, when you said like you came to Cabaret and you were like, I didn't see my sister up there. Like I said, right? Because I know that I started allowing myself to go to those edges. And again, it's those edges, and I talk about this in the book. I felt like I had to keep those edges in, like those, I didn't want those edges to show because I had the pop, even though it was me, it was still that pop persona that like people wanted me to, I felt like people wanted me to be a certain way. And so now I'm like, oh, if I can't, you know, like if I can't be on or perfect or this, I just can't. Oh, well, I can't, you know, I'm okay with that now. But all that visceral theater work, I think kind of helped me get to that place in my real life, in my own life.
Yes, well, and you were going into these super cathartic roles in super cathartic, emotionally demanding shows. I love, there's a beautiful moment where you have dialogue with your vocal coach,
Vocal coach,
where you say, I can't cry, I have to sing tonight. And your vocal coach says, you can't sing until you cry.
Yes. So Joan Lader, who's unbelievable, and she just called me last week for my birthday, and we talked about that because I remember thinking like, and by the way, this was part of my anxiety issues, and so for anyone going through anxiety, this might help you. I just felt like I had to hold myself in a certain place that I was like self-imposing instead of just allowing. And so, yeah, in my mind, the technical aspect of crying, like my nose is gonna get stuffy and that was so much better for singing in the long run than holding everything. Like think about that, trying to sing kind of stuck, you know? Now it was hard, like when my mom left us and I was singing through that extreme grief. That was another kind of difficult thing. But in general now, I mean, I probably cry at least once a day, truly. And again, working with Betty, I mean, I've just never seen, how many of you saw Gypsy with Betty? I mean, like, I've never seen anyone simultaneously cry and sing at the same time. It was astounding. I feel like Nicole kind of did that in Sunset Boulevard, didn't she? Didn't you feel she had some of that visceral, like, that emotion, just the flow? I love that visceral outpouring of emotion that you can, when you get to that place, it's so great.
Well, and the way you describe it in the book is that doing all that in the theater had an impact on your life as you were growing up and starting to go through a lot of the ups and downs you describe in the book.
Yeah, I think I was allowed to like disappear into a role, so that was kind of a safe place to explore all those emotions.
Because in your later work, and as you know, I'm a huge fan of The Body Remembers. To me, it's a unique album. There aren't other albums like this one, where you're going into those adult issues in this really candid way. And I wonder how much of your theater catharsis led to you writing songs like that later on.
That's so interesting. I mean, I just think it's like all been growth and evolution. Like I've not been one to be like, I'm gonna repeat something I did, right? Even in the theater, I felt like each role I played taught me something new. And like even playing Belle taught me, I had to have this incredible, like pristine vocal freedom, but in the confines of what it meant to be a Disney character that they wanted like kind of tried and true still. And it was before they started allowing for a little more uniqueness, like when Toni Braxton came in and they changed the key to suit her voice. And it's like, yeah, why does every character have to sing in the same key every time, right? When it's a different person playing a role. And so, but they were still again, that liaison that I talk about being that pioneer / guinea pig, right? So, but that did teach me a lot. And then, but yeah, I do think I carried all of it into my life. I mean, even for The King and I learned about posture and what posture meant in a certain time period, right? And how that informed how you sang. And it started me studying the Alexander technique. And then that changed my breath work. And then and it's all affected my life.
Well, and I think that's something, I think that's one of the reasons people are responding to this book and your story is because you've grown up in public, as few people have had to do. You've gone through adulthood in public, and that you've done it in a way that is always authentic, always full of your own dignity, and yet we've seen you through all your transitions, right? Like in the little montage, we saw you with the bike shorts. You were doing those bike shorts before George Michael was. Can we set the record about that? You were doing those before anybody else was doing the bike shorts. Also, something I learned from the book that I did not know, the origin story of your trademark hat.
Oh, yeah. So that hat, I was doing the Z100 morning show, like a Christmas show, and Michael Damian was on, and he had that hat. And I always loved hats, but I was always one for, we girls love to go, like, oh my God, let me see that. Can I try that? Oh, I'm going to try it on. And I was like, oh, look how cute I look. And it was like, oh, you can keep it. Oh my God, I can? Okay. And again, like a stylist could have dug into trends and tried to make that pork pie hat catch fire, and they never could have done it. It had to happen because I just casually stole it from a soap star and then just happened to wear it in the next photo shoot or video. I don't even remember like what came next, right? And it just caught on. But Aunt Linda will tell you I was wearing, and I talk about this in the book, I was wearing the toilet paper roll as a hat on the on the beach when the lounge chair was dragging across the concrete, which Uncle Carl is still twitching from. But yeah, it's those authentic things that I think in general in pop culture catch on. Even like my love of the color green, and that got implemented in The Body Remembers, and everyone started dropping green hearts and
right?
Yeah, and that's like my birthstone is a peridot, and I'm wearing a green ring. And I just think if you love something, people are gonna feel that, and love it for you and with you.
That must have come through with the hat. People could tell that it wasn't a stylist's idea.
And it just frames, like, I always felt like I had a quirkier face, and it frames your face when nothing else is working.
It was just such a mind-blowing story. You flirted that hat right off that poor boy's head.
See, where was that line in my book? Oh my God, when we do the paperback, I'm adding that.
Be careful anything you wear around her.
I flirted that hat right off his head. Where was that line? Dang, that's good. You should write.
Yeah, exactly. But like, you're so candid in this book about everything you saw along the way, and yet you also, something that really comes a lot through the book is the warmth that you encountered from people. It seemed like you had an amazing ability to make people root for you. Very much like Carole King's story. Carole King and you, something that you had in common is you were both very determined, very strong-opinioned, very strong-willed young teenage girl songwriters who were able to just sort of smooth over all the opposition.
Wow, I mean, that's quite a compliment. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, I don't know, maybe you guys can tell me why that is, that you've rooted for me, but I do feel people rooting for me. Like, even the appearance last night on Fallon, I got so many comments like, yeah, thank you.
That was so great, right?
It's funny how it's validating, right? When like a big show, a very hip show like that, says, like, deems you worthy of that, being in that chair. And the fun part about being me is that I got to a place where I just didn't need any of that validation anymore. Like, I don't know if I ever needed it, but in the beginning, you kind of like, there's a badge of honor that comes with getting those certain press opportunities and all that. And then because my life, it took so many twists and turns, I just really found my own center eventually to a point that I was like, which is why when we did that interview about The Body Remembers, I cried because I felt so seen. I was like, oh my God, I got so used to not needing validation that now that it's happening, like I don't even know what to do with it, right? That's where was at that point. And I think it's so nice though that like, and that's why I wanted to write this book too, because I think when people know that you've had those moments where you're truly like at the bottom, like you're despondent, right? When you've had that and you can come back from that, that's like, it's everything. You'd like, there's anything, listen, I'm not naive enough to think that all kinds of things won't happen in the next many decades, right? Health things, financial, whatever all the things are. But I've already proven to myself that I can get through those, And so, like, I always see those social media posts that say, like, remind yourself that everything you've gotten through up till today, right? And so to not only have gotten through, but to be able to look at people and say, okay, I'm going to name drop for a second because this is a cool encounter that happened this week on this press tour. But Orlando Bloom was up at Sirius XM. And it was like with very little fanfare, he walked in and I was there and he's one of these very personable guys who connects immediately. And he goes like, how's everything going for you? Like, how's your life? And I just stopped and I said, you want to know what? It's so great because I'm having fun and I'm feeling good. And he was like, well, what do you attribute that to? I mean, we got right into a Barbara Walters special. Like, they were like, Orlando, you have to, and I was like, hello, I'm talking to Orlando Bloom. Can you not tear him away for his interview? But the point is, it's so much fun to be able, when you realize you're having fun in your life and your life's your own, right? Like I spent a long time kind of visualizing what I wanted my life to feel like and how I just wanted to feel in my own skin. And I'm at a place where, generally speaking, I'm there. And so, yeah, thank you. Yeah. And so circumstances can be doing whatever they're doing all around me. And it doesn't matter,
Tough times, and you're a tough woman. And you've had to show yourself how tough you were. And that really comes across in the book, how tough you are. And of course, the support system that you have, the family that you came from, but that you've carried that toughness with you all the way through the years makes it an inspiring and positive book to read.
Thank you. I feel like, I'm very fragile too. What I learned from playing Sally Bowles in my life is that, when people say, like, you're fearless, I'm like, oh no, I have a lot of fears. But I think being bold and being brave is having the fears, acknowledging the fears, and then going and doing it anyway, and that's what I've done. And so, again, like, I remember Mom saying, like, she was shaking walking into those conference rooms with the execs at Atlantic. In fact, okay, so one of my guests who's here, where's Bruce Carbone? Where are you? So Bruce, I feel like I want everyone to see Bruce. Bruce was one of the original guys who signed me to Atlantic. And Bruce, I don't know if you've seen the book yet. Have you seen? Yes. So Larry Asgar was the head of the dance department. Larry's no longer with us, and it was Larry, Bruce, and Anthony Sanfilippo. And Bruce, I don't know if you've seen the book, but there's this picture in the book, because I feel like nobody's ever seen these guys, wait, right? And like, I vividly remembered that office at Atlantic with no windows in it, because the dance department like got relegated to the office in the middle with no, and the stacks of 12-inch records. I can't wait. I mean, I walked out with those, New Shoes and all the Stacy Q and all those great dance records. Escape Club, right? And I found this contact sheet. So for those of you who've seen the book already, you saw like the Michael Jackson and I candid photo and the photo of, I say, the boys in the back office. And it was like blown up from this contact sheet that was negatives or slides or whatever that we don't have anymore. So we just blew them up. And where's Eddie? Eddie's husband, Todd, like helped like zhuzh them so that they, looked like something. But yeah, so those were some I forgot how and why I got into that, what you said that made me get into that, but, you know, yeah.
We're talking about your persistence and perseverance through the years.
Right. I mean, but yeah, I just remember like, Bruce, I don't know what you thought when you were told this 16-year-old was going to go start playing clubs to promote these songs. But, you know, I think that's what my train of thought was. Like, I'd get on these stages. Oh, I was talking about my mom, because you remember, Bruce, like my mom would, you know, she was tough and she was very knowledgeable, but she was also shaking in her shoes, but just didn't let it was the commercial, never let him see you sweat. That was Diane Gibson. That was Diane. But she literally be like, all right, I'm gonna go throw up. That meeting was so intense. Like she was very honest about, you know, that it was scary to go in and fight for me and my vision. And for me too, I got on those stages and I was like this kid on the stage in an adult club, and all these people were like, trying to pick people up, and they were drinking, and they were like, and I say it in the book, who's this little powder puff on the stage? My mom always said powder puff. Who's gonna sing, you know? And so it was scary, but I had to do it. And even now, like if I get a thought in my head, like I remember, you guys will remember on the Body Remembers tour when I got stuck with the RV, with Kurt driving, in some crazy traffic. I think we were heading to Nashville. And I was like half asleep, and I was like, Kurt, wouldn't it be fun if we just went and started handing out vinyls to all these people in traffic? And he was like, yeah. And then I was like, oh, shoot, what have I gotten myself into, right? Because I was like, do I really want to do this? Like, and even now thinking about it, I get this like, oh, right? But once I think it, I have to do it. That's kind of like my whole life. That's what happens. If I think it and I say it, forget it if I say it out loud, it's done. But it's fun, you know, those are the things. Those are the things you remember and that are fun, and those are the moments that make people's day because they know you're stepping out.
That's exactly right.
And you're stepping out of your comfort zone, and you're doing something a little, you know, out of the ordinary, and
absolutely.
And that's
fearless
what makes it
and tough and authentic and always from the heart.
Thank you. Thank you.
You mentioned that people have questions that they submitted on index cards?
They did. And can we do one? I'm trying to think like, are we going to go into the questions and back into anything else about the book? Or are we kind of on the time? I mean, I don't know what the timing is or anything. I just know we had another fun montage, but we didn't talk about kind of the lead in to it. But I just wanted to recognize my manager, Heather, who, yes? I mean, who worked for my mom and I and with my mom and I, and then, you know, took that torch and has carried it the last, Heather, where are you, 14, 15 years? She's in the wings. You want to give a wave? Come give a wave. Come give a wave. But I just wanted to, because I don't know how many of you, like, know, it's what made me think of this was talking about being brave and jumping in. When my mom hired Heather, she didn't just hire Heather, she hired her and sent her to Asia with me, like on a 30-day promo tour that was not for the faint at heart. And I feel like I've shown maybe little bits and pieces, but we put together a super fun montage from that first Asian tour, Southeast Asian tour. And I just wanted to share it with you, if you don't mind. Isn't that fun?
I love that.
And we were having fun then, and we're still having fun. I mean, like Heather and I yesterday, I laughed when we were between interviews, and I almost said the interview, but they haven't announced the other interview. I did this great interview last night you guys were going to see. But Eddie has been helping me on this trip, but we lost Eddie to Chicago on Broadway, the nerve of him. He had to do his Broadway show last night. So Heather and I are like rolling these suitcases down the street with like everything from the day, including the Casio from the Fallon show. Like, it was Mama, 3 ducks, 5 canaries, a mouse, na-na-na-na. It was vaudeville. And it's like, I'm laughing because it's like nothing changes but the date. We were doing that on that trip in like, what is that, 95? 95. So crazy.
Unbelievable. Alternative to the alternative.
Yeah.
I love that. So since you mentioned alternative in 1995, I have to ask about one of my favorite oddity moments in the book. You on stage at CBGB, punk rock Debbie crowd surfing with the circle jerks.
Yes, with the circle jerks.
Okay, what the hell happened?
You know, I'm still asking myself that. No, during the Think With Your Heart album, Nico Bolas came in and mixed, and he was producing, I think he was producing or mixing for the Circle Jerks at the time. And they were just like, they thought it was like fascinating that Nico was working with them and with me. So they were just like, do you think she'd come in and do a guest vocal or something? So then I sang that, I wanna destroy you. And I had to say, yo, for you, pronounce yo. But yeah, so I did that, and then they invited me to sing at CBGB's, and it was Spinal Tap. It was like you had to go around the back, and they had the door locked, but didn't know it. So they're like riffing on the intro. They're like, Debbie Gibson, and I'm banging, going, somebody let me in. And nobody can hear me over the music. It just went on forever. And then I got up there and I sang, and and then I dove head first into because I didn't know what I was doing. It was so much fun. I don't know. And MTV was there. I mean, it was so crazy.
Unbelievable. I love how many stories in the book are, wow, the 80s, man. And then this is such the 90s. Like, Debbie Gibson is on stage at CBGB, crowd surfing with the LA hardcore band.
That was my 90s moment, yes. I mean.
You've had moments in every single era. I love that.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you're still having them now.
I'm having the best ones now. Like, I just feel the most present now, you know? I'm really taking everything in now. And I just said to you backstage before we came out here, like, this last press week, like, I don't know if I've ever had a press week like this, ever. Like, today things were rolling in on my texts of, like, you know, all these interviews I've been doing. And I was like, the warmth and the respect, it's a whole different tone. And I don't know if writing a book just kind of wakes people up to everything you've done all of a sudden, or like if people feel like, well, I guess if she respects herself and her career enough to write a book, then we should. I don't know what the thing is, right? But like even just like being interviewed by Adam Carolla and Chelsea Handler, that'll come out. I used to be petrified to get interviewed by them. And a lot of that just kind of like edgier hosts, and that's with very good reason, because a lot of them were out to get me. They were out to kind of, you know, I was talking to Debbie Matenopoulos about this because she's going to be hosting tomorrow night in Chicago, and she said, you know, this is so profound. She's like, you started when that whole concept of the shock jock was really happening. And so the jocks and the hosts wanted to be the star. They didn't want to make the artist feel comfortable. Like if they were able to have a laugh at your expense and that was going to further their MO, that's what they were going to do. But now, maybe it's different, maybe the whole landscape's different, or just there's a different, like, or maybe I'm walking in and I'm not walking in afraid, or something's happened that's different. And it's been really, really fun because I was like bracing myself for the book press. I think I had some perception that it was going to be really, no, it's emotional and like taxing in its own way, but because it's depthful. But it hasn't felt, now I know the book's only out just today, but like all the press leading up to it has been like, all the conversations have started at a certain level. And it's been really enjoyable to me. And it's wild because it's like a grab bag because there's so many things in the book you don't know what direction people are going to take things, you know? But it's been really pleasant. So knock wood, that continues.
It's the positivity that comes from you. And that's why people responded to The Body Remembers. It's why people are responding to this story. Even before people have read this book, people are just starving for a story like this because the positivity that comes from you, people relate that you've been through all the ups and downs you've been through, while holding on to that positivity that you've already always put out there and always generated.
Thank you. And it's funny when you say that, because I wrote about this and I wrote about like being in that hotel room in Argentina, and Eddie, you were with me and then you left to get your plane, and I had like a full out collapse, you know. I had the positivity, but like sometimes the positivity was really deeply buried under me being so fatigued, which made me grumpy, which made me frightened, which made me anxious, which made me too tired to lift my head off the pillow. But I think I did always know it was in there. So I was like, okay, how do I, like my natural state of being is happy. You know, it doesn't mean you don't get emotional or have sad moments but like, I've never been one to hang on to those moments for too long. I like to acknowledge it, let it pass, you know, see what I could do productive to help that, and then move through it. So I knew at times in my life when I was like just stuck, you know, and I say that, you know, there's, you know, the chapter's called Stuck, right? I say like, you know, if you feel stuck, you are stuck. If you can't see the way out, like you're at this moment anyway, not getting out. But I think I always kind of heard that voice. I always felt like, this can't be, like, and I always had a survival instinct. I always knew, like, no, I want to go on, and not only go on, but I really want to be returning to my natural state of being, which is happy, you know. So, again, for any of you feeling that way now, first of all, bravo for getting yourself out of your home, because that can be hard when you're feeling that way. Yes, I know that feeling so well, when you feel like, you know, you're wearing that sadness and you don't want it out in the world, and you don't want to be reminded of everyone else having fun around you, because you're like, why aren't I having fun too? Again, and I said this in the TED Talk I did a couple of weeks ago, I'm literally singing and dancing proof that you can go to that bottom dark place and you can return to that lightness and that I feel carefree right now, and it's such an amazing thing to say, and I wish that upon all of you. I really do.
Thank you for telling your story. Thank you for
Thank
bringing
you.
that into all the lives of all the people who are just fiending for this story, and all the positivity that you're feeling right now. It's totally deserved, because you've been putting it out there your entire career. There's no other story like yours.
Thank you.
Debbie Gibson.
Thank you. And now we'll do questions. Can we do questions now? Yeah. Thank you, guys. So I can't wait to see what some of you have asked. So do we have those cards? Heather, you're Vanna today. You're Vanna White. You need to give a pose.
Question.
Yes.
In the New York Times piece, you spoke of learning boxing. How does fitness impact your life as an artist?
Ooh, that's a great question. So I've been through again, I talk about it in the book. I've been through like a fitness journey in terms of, I went from working out to overworking out. And even in the book, I talk about repeater, like who took those step lifts, and I was step class, and I was Billy Blanks, and I was like climbing the rock wall at Reebok, and I was swimming laps, and I was like, I couldn't get enough, and then my adrenals would just crash, and then my back would go out, and then so I have really learned kind of when I can accelerate in fitness, and like I was like doing it's like, talk about the body remembers. Like my body knows what to, like leading up to the legendary video, I was doing these like 2 to 3 hour boxing workouts a day. And I didn't know if my body was going to take to it and my system was going to be able to handle it. But I think something in me knew, you're preparing for this video. Like this is going to be the sole output. Thank you for the legendary video. Oh my God, my favorite. I think I knew that was where I should and wanted to put like most of my energy at the time. But then like 2 days ago, I simply took a swim and I got exhausted, because my output right now, even though it's not highly physical, it's still an output. So I have to manage my output. So like fitness is sometimes more, I have to see it as like a warm up into my day. Sometimes I have to see it as For like, oh, I'm saving my energy for like my stage shows, and other times I can do it a little more full on. And so these days, like no 2 days or no 2 weeks are alike, and I have to be in tune with what feels good in the moment.
Amazing. Great question. This question, by the way, has a "and thank you" smiley face. What song do you wish you had written yourself?
Oh my goodness, that is such a good question. That changes every day. Oh my gosh, I feel like there's "You Belong to Me." I'm going to get the song wrong that I wish I would have written myself. We were just playing it in the car. "I Belong to Me," Mabel. I love that song. It's a great song, right? "How Bad Do You Want Me," Gaga. I love that song. I feel like I joke when she goes, "Tell me." I was like, did you get that from the Debbie Gibson School of Ad-Libs? Because I feel like I kind of could have written that song maybe. That's just to name a couple. I'm also going to go Vienna, Billy Joel. And how many of you have seen the Vienna? Yeah. How many of you saw the documentary? I didn't know the whole story of his dad, and I didn't know how much Elizabeth, his first wife, right, was so very my mother. Like, she was that woman running the show for Billy, and I didn't really know he had that woman behind him. Did you guys? I mean, I didn't know that story. I felt like it finally really got told. And I love how the guys in the band were kind of like, yeah, we were kind of afraid of her. Like, we loved her, but we were a little afraid of her. And I was like, wow, this is familiar.
How has music helped you to bounce back from your personal obstacles?
Ooh, that's such a great question. Well, my friend Matt Goss, who I also talk about in the book, he calls it Dr. Show. So first of all, when you're not feeling great and you don't, for me, if I don't fully feel like myself, but I have a show at night, it's this unbelievable reason to get my act together. And it's this unbelievable thing that like immediately organizes me when I'm feeling all over the place. So it's a constant thing that just feeds me, fuels me. And then to be able to write about, I'll introduce another friend in the audience, Sam Hollander. Where's Sam? Sam, shout out some of the amazing songs you've written. Can you just brag? You probably know. That's my favorite. High Hopes, Panic at the Disco's one. I mean, come on. So I bring that up because, Sam, like how therapeutic is, I feel like we need like another mic, like Donahue here, but like how therapeutic is it, right, to get all your angst out in songs? Well said. I mean, but it's really true, like to be able to, like the body remembers, like one step closer. I remember it being like, it's like, I don't swear very easily. I occasionally do, as we say curse on the East Coast, but like I learned to say swear because people didn't say curse. Just like they don't say pocketbook, they say purse. What a weird thing, right? But like that was kind of like my FU song. One Step Closer was kind of like, like somebody a situation triggered that song, and it was like, well, take this. First of all, I'm getting one step closer to who I am or what I want, maybe in romantic love or maybe just being okay by myself. So it just, and also like, and I always get to say, and thank you for the song inspiration. So if someone, takes me down a difficult road at the end of the day, I get a song out of it. Right, Sam?
You've got some FU songs on The Body Remembers.
Yeah, I think I do.
Strings.
Oh, strings. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, the faith I lost in you, I found in me. Because again, people will be that mirror, and I say that in the book too. I say people will show you what you want and who you want to be, and they'll show you who you don't want to be or who you don't want, right? And so yeah, that song for me is very much like love isn't love with condition. And talking about my financial era in the book where, I talk about Lance Bass being such a great friend. The thing again, because I'm an energy person, I can tell you there were no, again, when I say no strings in relation to NSYNC, it's just always, sorry, I'm not doing that on purpose, but I knew there were no strings attached to that transaction. Do you know?
I cried at that story in the book. What a beautiful story. Beautiful story.
I was like, am I telling this story? Am I saying the dollar amount in the story? Am I right? I really wanted to paint that picture though, because when you take this in for a minute, when you at one time were in a position to buy a mansion with your mom and build a 48-track studio in that mansion, and then your friend's assistant is walking up your front steps to a house that is going bye-bye with a brown paper lunch bag full of $5,000 in cash, because in that moment, you need that little bit of a bridge. That is an experience. That is an experience. But, I did this, and Buddy and Eddie, you'll remember, we did a Christmas concert at a cathedral in Brooklyn. And I was doing this song that I had written about, you can take a house, but you can't take a home. And my ex-boyfriend, Rutledge, who I talk about in the book, was really, truly, and still is, full of wisdom. And he used to say, you think you own your house? Don't pay the note. See who owns your house. But he used to say that the song You Can't Touch This, the MC Hammer song, he used to say, man, that song is deep. Because really, you can't touch this. Like, what's a house, right? And so I remember being at that concert and I said, who in this room has ever lost a home? And I said, you felt all these butt cheeks in the seats go. Everybody got very quiet and I said, y'all can't lie to me, we're in a church. Because that a lot of people have experienced that. But there's no shame in going through that. It's like so many people go through it, It's kind of like nearly impossible, especially in so many parts of the country, to keep up. Everything's so expensive. And people are just doing their best to keep up. And then I don't even have the extra added layer of being a mom of humans. And so I can't imagine all of you who are parents and the juggling act that I think a lot of parents do and that mine did again, I don't know about you, Karen, but I didn't, and is Denise here too? Is Denise here today? Denise, are you here too? I don't know. Maybe she's oh, there's Tristan, my nephew Tristan, and my sister Denise should be here. But I don't think we ever felt like we were missing out on anything. And when I think about how little my parents had and what a great job they did of not letting us know that, and I'm sure a lot of you guys do that out there, and I think it's amazing and commendable. And, the money comes and the money goes, and it's really, I know it's such a cliche, but it's, what is the Don Henley song? I don't see no hearses with luggage racks. You really can't take it with you. And again, when I talk about losing so many of my sentimental possessions in the book, it really is true. It's I have the memories and I have the music and I have the love, and the rest, ultimately, it's things. It's why I said I keep investing my money back into my art, because the art shifts the energy and stays forever in the world.
The last question, a great one, because in so many ways it's the question that you discuss all the way through this book, from the beginning to the end. What would you say to the 16-year-old to grow up as your true self?
Oh, wait, so...
The 16-year-old Debbie.
Yes.
What advice would you give?
Just in general, but to,
grow up true to yourself.
To grow up true to yourself. Love, trust, and being enough, baby. That's what I would say. I would say, there's advice I would give for sure, which is just stop worrying. Like the worry is exhausting and takes away from the enjoyment of experiences. But I really think that I had a sense of being myself and being good with it, like I think I embraced, again, like I really embraced my quirks, and, I applaud everyone for doing whatever makes them feel good. So like, you grew up and you didn't like your nose and you had your nose done, bravo. You grew up and you were good with your nose and you didn't get your nose done, bravo, right? So, but like I went and I did those consultations, and then I really tuned in at an early age to like, does this really make me comfortable, or do I really want this, or do I really need this to feel like, and so I think that's been one of my strong suits in life, is to be not just okay with who I am, but to be like, yeah, there's just me. And like I said at the start of this, to bring it full circle, I'm a little rough around the edges, but aren't we all? And like, I just feel like embracing that's been the most freeing thing. And I just wanted to say, I see Dina Baum out there. Dina, hi. I had to, because you just like drew me in. I just turned and I'm like, it's Dina. And Dina always tells, I was just saying this to someone the other day. You always tell such beautiful stories about my mom. Because my mom, again, she was tough. She pissed some people off along the way, blah, blah, blah. Like, as I would say a lot of managers do and a lot of mothers do, right? You put those two together. But Dina, you always bring up how my mom took care of you at concerts, make sure you had a good spot to watch from and were taken care of. Yep. It's amazing. I always love that. I say to my sisters here today, and my aunt and my uncle and my nephew, right? Mom was always as soft as she was tough. She was a softie. She took care of people. And I talk about this in the book, The Moment, where, and I just want to take a moment for this to celebrate her, because I've been saying this, especially the last few years, and really realizing how, I don't know if we'd all be here celebrating the music in this moment without what she did. But I loved The Moment, and it was one of those weird, possibly psychic, preemptive, premonitions, when she came to that show in Texas, and I brought her on stage for We Could Be Together, and so many of you were there, and you got to meet her that night, and I was like, go to the meet and greet, Mom, go take your bow, and everybody just kind of swarmed around her and took pictures with her and everything, and it was such a beautiful, beautiful full circle moment. And my dad, kind of, maybe a lot of dads get the background role, right? But my dad was so instrumental in taking me to community theater auditions, and he was the lighter side in the parenting duo. He was he always kept us laughing. Even today, I'll call him and say, hi, Dad, and I'll say, how are you? And he'll go, oh, I'm in a lot of pain. I'm going to the doctors. But he's happy-go-lucky about it, and I think that really rubbed off on me too. So
the apple did not fall far from the tree.
No, I got really got the best of all worlds in that. So,
well, we're so lucky to get the best of you, the unbelievable Debbie Gibson, the timeless Debbie Gibson. Thank you for the music. Thank you for this story. Thank you for the book. And thank you most of all for being you, the one and only, the great Debbie Gibson.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you. Rob Sheffield, thank you so much for this. Thank you.
Debbie.